I might mention that when Margaret was talking to the community members, we weren't explaining what we were doing. So they had perhaps no knowledge about our mentoring programs that we have in place. But we were focused on what their perceptions were, because that's the reality that they know Trimet through. So with that, I know Margaret...
I have no idea what you're mentoring what. Yeah, I just don't get it at all. I mean, what is he talking about?
This was an integral part of the process, and that Margaret led along with staff. So I want to turn it over to her to expand on what she heard from the community.
Thank you.
Community?
I need to borrow this, please. I have this with my piece on that. I left all of my material at home thinking I had the right piece. Anyway.
She left all of her material at home. Okay.
I couldn't hear what she said.
She said she left all of her material at home, so she forgot whatever she was going to...
It's really
That's great.
important to be a part.
Yes, yeah. By the way, we should not judge her.
Yeah, right.
Of this
That would
step.
be judgmental.
Right. She's a politician, right, Margaret Cardone?
Right.
Yeah, she's a politician. Okay, that's two strikes
against. By the
against.
way, I'm sure she could catch Trimet to go home, and the time she comes back, the meeting will be definitely over.
I think it's important to be a part of this study, because when you do things so internally, the community says you have an internal perspective. And with a person that is very familiar with you and has had the opportunity to take pot shots at you, I thought it was pretty brave of you to ask me to come on board.
Well, she's very well spoken. I've never heard her before. But I do like the way she talks. I can see why she's a successful politician.
And it was what she said was important, that she has taken pot shots at him, but they needed something to legitimize this committee.
Yeah, right.
And she's it.
She's it. Good point.
And I mean, you and I will never be asked to be on,
right.
on a committee.
Yeah, she's a public figure, a politician. We're the public. The public doesn't get a say in any of this.
Right, and then, as you notice, there's no one from the public here.
Nobody.
I appreciate it.
And they don't allow public comment either. So,
right.
What else do you need to know?
That because I am also known as being a very objective person, and I feel that being a part of this study and being able to answer to the governor's request as well as the community's request requires someone who has had policy experience to understand, just because the public think it's a good thing to have.
She's talking like a goddamn politician, isn't she? That's a politician right there.
Which is a human resource issue. The technology of what you do is really one thing, but the human resources thing, part of it is another thing. And that's the one thing that I really got into. And if you will see the people that I interviewed, you will also know, I'm interviewed right here. You will also know that these are people, I think you got it in your report, Rakaya Adams. Even though she's not a bus rider now, she once has been a bus rider, and still, when she's in the intricacies of downtown, she uses a bus. So all of these people, Ron Herndon, who has been taking pot shots at you for years, like Margaret Carter has, in terms of wanting to make sure that the public interest is taken care of. And so I think in that perspective, members of the board, that you have reached out in a way that I don't see where criticisms will come in terms of you just using your internal eye to look at what is going on at Trimet. So I want you to feel comfortable in knowing that and I think you have a list of questions in your...
Well, it would have been nice if she had shared with us, the audience, like me and you, exactly what pot shots she's been taking at Trimet. I would have liked to get. I'd like to get a little background on that.
And was the last time that woman rode the bus was on her way to grade school?
Your books as well, in terms of things we ask. And we ask hard questions. What do you think about Trimet? What do you think about how we are doing business? And for the sake of this conversation, I will be a part of the us and the we. How do you think we are doing in terms of delivery of services? How do you think ridership?
They've had this in public testimony for years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they've got plenty of information.
I mean, you and I have listened to hours of public testimony pointing all these questions out.
Exactly.
And not by people who are chosen, but by people who actually use the system.
Exactly.
Is going. There have been incidences on the buses, and I know that many of you guys were concerned about it, and I know that the issue of community of colors being engaged in the Trimet system. Well, I'm here to tell you, board members, for the exception of looking at your top management piece, which is also being worked on, that is not an issue that you have to take as a burden, because we looked throughout your system. Good morning, Keith.
Jesus.
And to know that Keith is on your board, there will never not be a pipeline to Northeast Portland anymore, because he is trusted and people believe in him, and he will bring the right kind of information. So in looking at the questions and looking at the issues, some of the things that the people wanted us to know is, how is Trimet set up for the future? And so when we looked at that, we asked these kind of questions that people said, we would like for you to invest in employment pipelines. What that means is, look at our children in our schools, build your own future within the context of this community in which we live. There are things that transportation issues affects kids in elementary school, high school, and in our colleges. Go to black colleges and be involved and engaged with them in terms of creating opportunity in our state. We have something to talk about. When Bruce and I were in the legislature, Bruce was with the Economic Development Department, people were coming from all across the country to look at our system. And so we don't have a problem on that technological end of things. So what we're trying to...
I assume so. I don't know, but...
I didn't know he was in the legislature.
I didn't either. He wasn't elected. He was doing something else there, apparently, if that's who she's referring to.
To do was ask questions around the issues of who is sitting where in the system. And so we also thought that...
You can notice, I want to comment here, you notice she's talking a lot, but she's not really saying anything. Do you notice that? She's really not saying anything.
She really has not made any waves.
No, she's throwing around compliments. That's all she's doing, is saying how wonderful this guy, that guy, you've done this, you've done that. And she's saying a lot of nothing too.
The conversation
that's probably because her prepared text
she forgot it.
Is sitting on her kitchen table.
Yeah.
The community was that when you hire a new management person, that person doesn't have to know 95% of transportation issues. That person needs to know 95% of business issues.
What?
Ask the right question.
What? Did you just hear that? Did you just hear what she said? Well, no, she just lost all of her credibility with that comment. What do you mean you don't need to know 95% of the transportation issues? You need to know 5%. What the hell?
I misinterpreted it, because I thought she was saying that the people they hired knew 95% of transportation issues.
No, she said you don't need to know that. You need to know 95% of business issues. That's what I heard her say.
Well, anyway you take it, it's
Any way you take it, there's something wrong with that.
Staff. See if you can communicate with your staff and with the board people in which you work, and see if keep Doug committed to his promises that he has made to you as a board, and you as a board is responsible for carrying out to the community. So be flexible in those kind of experiences. And expand mentoring and expanding mentoring.
What mentoring?
You're not trying to get somebody who's already ready to go on board here. You're trying to create opportunity that comes up through the pipeline and mentor those young people in their own backyards, right here in Portland. We have college students that go.
When is the last time anyone from the rank and file got mentored up to any
I think
position?
Shelley Lomax was the only one in my that act.
Well, and she received the chopping block.
In the end, there they put her out. Yeah,
Right.
which they should have done because she.
But Trimet made sure that if you don't recall, and I will refresh your memory, that there was a change in the contract 2 years ago, or the contract of a couple years ago, that after 5 years, if you did come up for the rank and file and became a manager, after 5 years, you no longer had the option of ever returning to a blue-collar union position.
Really?
Right. So that made sure that if once you were on this course, after 5 years, you better make sure your bobblehead maneuvers are really good, because you make one wrong move, you're kicked out the door.
Yep.
And there is no way of ever coming back to your old position, whether it be a bus driver, a train operator, a
Station
controller.
Yeah, any of those positions.
Position. And so the positions, I can't tell you how many people who got close to that 5 years decided,
I better go back. Yeah.
I better go back, because they could see what's been going on. The guy they knew on their left is no longer there.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's all politics and shit.
And so if that's what you call mentoring,
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about with that. That's just some kind of.
and it's definitely not the apprentice program.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because they're on the Trimet's on a hell bent to get rid of that and neuter it as much as they can.
Right.
Way and come back home and have great experiences. That could become a mentoring process as well. During the summer months, you can have young people who live in our city but go outside of the city to create opportunity for themselves in business management, business opportunity, and things of that nature, that you can bring these young people on board and increase your leadership involvement with communities of colors. One of the greatest things that the comments, and Angela and I listened very well to this one when Mr. Herndon said that when you increase your leadership involvement with communities of colors, the board members then know the challenges that Trimet faces with people in different communities across this city. One of the things that they thought about was that, why does Trimet have to sit in their own backyard, have their meetings? Why don't they come out to the community and have meetings sometime? Invite the communities in to listen to what they have to say, because that is the way community engagement really works. And then you have community involvement. And some of the criticisms that you get, you can become more transparent in that way. And so I'm bringing all
What the
this
hell
back
is
to you,
what
because
is
this is a perspective from which that
Everything she is espousing has been espoused for years in public testimony.
Yes. This is nothing new.
And those people have been cut off at the end of 3 minutes.
Yeah. I was just going to say, go into a community college, give them their 3 minutes, and it will end up in the same place as the 3 minutes they give to the people in downtown Portland. Nowhere. Okay.
Right. And Trimet can actually say with a straight face, we don't care what your color is, your race, or your background. 3 minutes is 3 minutes.
Right. And whatever 3 minutes you have to say, it's not going to make any difference because we've already made all the plans.
They gave us, and we're really on top of it in terms of who rides the transportation system. And I think your greatest proportion of those people who ride the transportation system are African Americans and other people of color in riding the system. So in doing so, you want to make sure that when people get on those buses, that they are seeing people that look like them. When they have to call for a complaint, that it's somebody who understands the community in which they're coming from as well. Isn't there another portion to this?
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. That's a politician if I ever seen one.
All I can say is this testimony, if she could look at it objectively, would not be her finest hour.
Yeah, no, this is really trash. Sorry, Margaret. I don't know you, but that really was a whole bunch of political nothing.
I mean, the word embarrassment pretty well covers it.
Yeah, I'll agree.
Part, it's a perception that we require transit experience. Actually, if you look at our job descriptions, as the report does, only about 8% of our job descriptions state that public transit experience is required, but it's not very clear. So one of the things that we learned from this is a need to go back and be clear in our job descriptions about what the prerequisites are, so that we might say if public transit is nice to have or preferred or something that we would recognize, put it in that context and leave for the requirements, the true requirements of the job. So there was some effort that we had to expand, and if we're doing it internally and can't really tell if transit experience is required, well then applicants and managers are going to have the same difficulty.
Yeah, by the way, when it comes to Randy's own experience, he had none.
None. Right, I had no idea.
Transit experience.
He did have union busting experience, though.
Right. He out at Mount Hood Community College, I think it was, and did a good job of breaking that up out there. And so his transit experience was zip.
None. Right. He came in there solely to bust the union, and that's pretty.
And he did an excellent job as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, right. He did. Indeed, he did. All right.
Clear in our job descriptions. Also in mentoring, we actually have started work with a company called Mentium, which is a virtual mentoring program. We do have some informal mentoring that's going on inside the district.
It's a virtual mentoring program. Oh my God. Everything that's wrong with public transportation is what you're seeing here, folks. Everything that's...
What is virtual mentoring? You listen, you put on these headset at night and
This is such garbage. I can't even believe.
You dream that you're a future CEO of a transit agency?
Right. Just, oh, God.
I wouldn't know about either of those, but those are fairly new programs. They are they're beginning to blossom, and they're beginning to show results, but that is an area that we can certainly expand upon.
What results?
I have no idea.
Anything you want to add on that?
No, I think, well, let me give you a perspective from someone who does not live here, okay? So I thought that this was really one of the most riveting parts of the entire work was listening to what the feedback was from the communities. And so this is what really hit me. By the numbers, and just strictly by the numbers, Trimet has work to do, but you've also made some progress, okay, and some significant progress. And this is one of those areas where I say you never claim success. There's no...
What's that? This is Bev Scott, I guess. Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, there it is. I can see it under there.
Yeah, it's Bev Scott.
Okay. But almost across the board, your community didn't feel that way. And there were some areas where going into this...
What did they do? I don't understand. Did Bev Scott and Margaret Carter have some public hearing somewhere? What are they... They're trying to tell us that those two went out in the, quote, community and asked...
No, they didn't go out in the community. From what my understanding was Carter lined up a bunch of people and they talked to them.
Right, okay. Right.
So
they picked who they wanted to talk to, yeah.
They chose 7 people.
Right.
And they talked to them.
Right. Got you.
You know, all they had to do was watch a couple hours of you and I commenting on board of directors meeting.
Right, or follow a Twitter feed. You know, there's plenty of information out there about what people are thinking, but they don't. But yeah, you know, it's obviously they need to hire a consultant.
Difference between here and here, between what perception was and what your actual numbers and stats were showing, okay? The feeling that I got from the reports and the discussion was that there is a feeling that not Trimet's bad, but that Trimet is a fairly insular organization, and that people are not getting the sense of really feeling, okay, that do you really feel that you're a part of the community that you serve, okay,
well, that's a good point. I like
all communities being served, okay? So these are the kinds of things that they're hard to hear. But I felt that it said a lot in terms of the trust and the honesty that people had. The folks that you had, Margaret and them, that they would say it, okay. But I also felt this just tremendous. But we're here. We really want to help, okay. There wasn't this. You're in it by yourself, Trimet, okay. It was really this. It was almost every single one of those interviews. Here's a recommendation on how we could help. This is something we'd love to do. There were some things that you had done in the past that had been that you weren't doing as much anymore. So anyway, I just saw it as being just a tremendous, really a tremendous opportunity, but there is no question, a real disconnect between things that you are doing and what your community is telling your story. And not just you telling the story, but having the community be able to tell the story because you really invited.
What she just said is so true.
Yeah.
But it's been self-evident for years.
Right.
In public testimony.
Right. It's not really new.
I mean, I didn't need Bev Scott to be paid $100,000 to tell me that.
No, exactly. Right. Yeah. She's bringing up things that we already know are true. This is not.
And as well as Mr. Warner and his fellow bobbleheads have known for years and have just put aside with a polite, "Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Next."
Yeah, right.
Them in almost a radical hospitality, if you will. Okay, and so that's the work that you're doing here. I couldn't say is more significant. I came up through initially civil rights and the human resources side of the house. As I said, I've run 4 of them. And when I started out, when you get on this Be Flexible regarding transit experience requirements, I started out as an assistant professor in government and public affairs 40 years ago. If you had told me that I would have been in public transit, I would have said no way, okay? I went on to run the bus system in all the boroughs of New York, Staten Island Rail, run 4 systems. I'm not trying to say that about Beverly, but I didn't do all of those things for 50 years to continue to move, okay?
This is the first time I've actually heard her talk in person like this, and she's pretty well spoken. I know what happened to her in Boston because I'm here, and she was pushed out because the MBTA collapsed completely under her watch while she was somewhere in another country she was an aristocrat. But I like the way she's talking. I like that.
So let me tell you what I have been able to do for 40 years. And I said it at the TIAC. I have been blessed to be able to be in the business of community building. And candidly, for the people that sit in your C-suite and are across the organization, all of you, that's really what transportation is. It is the business of community building. And there is not a stripe that says that there are a set of technical transit requirements in order to be able to do that job and do that job well within the community. So anyway, we'll get into other pieces.
I want to take this moment here to bring up this. This is now another technocrat talking about how, well, it's not really important to be in transit to end up in a transit management job. That's what she's saying. And unfortunately, that's why transit in this country is such a goddamn disaster. Because none of these people that are running these transit agencies really understand what they're running. They're running it from a business, human relations point of view, rather than actually experiencing the transit agency for what it is, which is marginal transportation. Okay, it's not comfortable, it's not desirable, it's bare minimal, and this kind of presentation doesn't help with any of that.
I mean, it's all this effort is what they're discussing in time. They have not spent, I'm surely, as much effort as figuring how do we get from point A to point B. So this person doesn't have to commute, 2 hours for a 30-minute trip.
Yeah, it's really.
As I said before, every board member and every one of these people should be required for 30 days to give up their car. Completely.
Right.
Going to the market, going anywhere.
Exactly.
And take the system that they manage and try to get done their daily life, their daily chores.
Absolutely.